Hey guys, so I wanted to film another video for you guys and I couldn't figure out what kind of content I wanted because I'm stuck on something that happened to us recently, which you guys probably already know. We had a miscarriage last month. So I'm feeling like in a rut and I can't figure out in what direction I want to go, and I'm like, you know what, I just need to get it out of the way because I feel really strongly about what happened to us and what we went through. So I thought I'd come up on here and film a story time for you guys. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I don't know, just get a little insight from my story and what happened with me. And for any woman out there, just so that you guys know that you guys are not alone, that, you know, I have had it happen to us and our family, and I'm sure there's 1,000 other women out there who have had it happen to them. There's women out there who have serious problems with infertility, which is not my case. Well, at least I hope not, but as of right now, that we don't consider that being my case with my OB. We've discussed the situation or what happened, and she said she thinks it was just like a bump in the road, or it is so common and it happens so often. Most of the time women don't talk about it because it's, you know, it's such an emotional roller coaster, and it's such an emotional time in your life, and it's something that's not easy to get over with, or not necessarily over with because you never really get over it. Something that's really now being talked about a lot, actually. I was gonna say, a lot of women are coming out, and I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to share my story and kind of how it made me feel and how our family felt at the time and how we handled it, and just at where we are at now in our family. So let's stop rambling and let's get on with the story. So me and Oliver decided that it was time for us to start trying again for baby number 2. We have always said that we want a large family. We want 4 kids, if God allows us to, of course. If not, you know, it's what God says ultimately. But we would love to have 4 kids, is the number of kids that we would love to have. Well, we decided, you know what, it's time to start trying for baby number 2. We had said we were gonna start trying actually July, which is next month, but we just were like, you know what, kind of like when we started trying for Charlotte, we're like, just go with it. So we started trying but not trying, if that makes any sense. So we were not protecting ourselves, and we were just like, you know, if it happens, it happens, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. It's kind of like our mentality, where our mentality was at that moment, because we didn't want to really start trying until July. We were like, okay, let's just start trying but not trying, or not protecting ourselves in the say. So we didn't use protection, and me being me, I got pregnant with the first, I'm assuming the first time that we tried, that we had sex without protection. And I have very regular periods. I've never had any issues with that. The only thing with my periods is that they only last 4 days, which is, I know it's common, like anywhere from 4 to 6 or 7 days. I know there's women who have it like forever, but mine are pretty short and they're pretty light, which is what I was telling my OB. My periods are pretty regular, pretty light, and only last about 4 days. TMI. So I kind of had a feeling that I was pregnant. So I was testing and they were all negative, 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 negative. And I was like, okay, whatever, you know, like, I guess I'm just testing early. I don't know. And I started testing at the same time that I had started testing with Shyla before my missed period, because I do like to test earlier. I'm just that excited or hyper to have a, like, I don't know, I guess my want to have a baby is just that big that I test early. I don't like to wait. So I was testing early and they were all negative. And then finally, I think it was like 2 days before my missed period, I was like, my boobs feel weird. Because I had stopped testing for like 3 days. So I was like, okay, I'm not pregnant. They're all negative. Whatever, my period will come. But then 2 days before I got my period, I'm like, okay, this is weird. If you know what I'm talking about, and if you have breastfed, you know what I'm talking about even more, because my boobs felt like when I was breastfeeding. I don't know why, but that's what they felt like. I need to take a pregnancy test. So I went into the bathroom and I took a pregnancy test, and sure enough, there was 2 lines. There was one very, very faint line, and I'm like, okay. So I went to the store, and then 2 days later, I tested with a clear blue pregnancy test, which is what you guys saw in the video that I posted. And of course, it said I was pregnant. We were so over the moon and overjoyed about it, and we were so excited. We were in disbelief that it had happened that fast again, and we were just like, you know, we're just lucky. So that happened. I shared the news with my husband. We were both excited, but for some reason in this pregnancy, guys, I wanted to wait before telling anybody in our family, because with Shyla, we told everybody pretty early on. I believe I was like 7 weeks pregnant when we told our entire family. And when I say entire family, like I have a huge family. If you guys know me, y'all know how big my family is, both sides, my husband and mine. And so this time around, I was like, you know what? I was like, Oliver, I don't want to tell anybody yet. Like, I don't want to tell nobody, like nobody until I am 12 weeks pregnant. And he's like, why? That's a long time, blah, blah, blah. How are we going to hide it? And then on top of that, my stomach was bloating up so much. And I don't know why, but it literally looked like I was 3 months pregnant and I was only like 5 weeks, 6 weeks. I didn't understand that either. I don't know if that was like the sign of miscarriage too, or I don't know, but my stomach was very bloated, and I was like, okay. And Oliver's like, are you sure you're not having twins? We were like, okay, you know? So that happened, and I was just very adamant with my husband. I'm like, you know, there's just something in me telling me like, wait. Well, 6 weeks came around, and I was about 6 weeks, 5 days. It was on a Wednesday, and I remember I was outside in the front porch with Shyla. We were sitting, waiting for Rio to go potty, and I was like, okay, let's go inside and shower. So we came in and we were getting in the shower, and I don't know about y'all, but I have to go pee before I shower. So I went to go pee, and when I pulled my underpants down, I noticed that there was blood. And usually when I start my period and I bleed like that on my clothes, I can feel it. Like, I'm like, oh shit, I'm bleeding. This time I didn't feel it, which was weird. Like, and it wasn't just like a tiny little spot. It was like a nice big spot, like that big. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, why am I bleeding? So I had never had bleeding issues with Shyla, so it was a little even more scarier for me this time. And I'm like, okay. And I hadn't been to my first appointment to the OB anyways, because you're not supposed to go in, or they don't typically see you anywhere from 7 to 8 weeks. So I was like, there's no point in me scheduling it. So I hadn't even scheduled an appointment or anything. I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna wait until like I'm at 8 weeks to call and go in. I'm sure everything's gonna be fine. I had a super breezy, easy peasy pregnancy with Shyla. No like hard times. There was nothing wrong. The only wrong thing that happened with Shyla was towards like the end of the pregnancy. My amniotic fluid started to go down in its levels, but other than that, pregnancy was a piece of cake. And besides the like throwing up every day, all day, my entire pregnancy. But yeah, I was like, why am I bleeding? So immediately I call my husband and I'm like, I'm bleeding. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm bleeding. And he's like, well, call the doctor, go to the hospital. Like, what do you want to do? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, let me just call the doctor's office and see if they can see me, or like, you know, what they're saying. So I called the doctor's office and explained to them what was happening. I told them I was bleeding, and she said, okay, well, we haven't confirmed the pregnancy, so it's a little hard for us to tell you what's going on, or like, you know, give you an answer. So she's like, how far along did you say you were? And I was like, 6 weeks, 5 days. And she's like, well, you know, I know it's a little early, but let me talk to the ultrasound tech person and see what she says. Maybe we're able to see a heartbeat, because the baby should be a little bigger now. And I was like, okay. And I remember that for Shyla, I think they saw me at like 6 weeks, a couple days too, and it was awesome. There was a great heartbeat and everything. So that went on, and she was just kind of telling me, you know, like, if this is a miscarriage, there's nothing that you can really do to stop it, but just go ahead and come in and we'll see what's going on, and that way maybe we can give you a better answer. So I had Shyla, and I needed somebody to come with me, because obviously I couldn't hold her because she's not walking yet, and I knew she was going to stay still. So I couldn't hold her, so I had to call somebody to come with me to the doctor's office. So I called Ellie, my cousin, and Yasmin actually went with her too, because they were together. And I called Ellie and I was like, do you mind coming with me to an appointment? I really need you to come. And she's like, yeah, that's fine. I didn't even tell her where I was going or anything. She had to be somewhere, so she actually followed my car. And then when we got there, I was like, I'm pregnant. And they're like, yay. And I'm like, well, not to be so excited. I'm like, I'm actually bleeding. I think I might be having a miscarriage, but they're telling me it could be hormonal bleeding. So they wanted me to come in, and that's why I needed y'all to come in. They're like, okay, it's fine. So we went in, and I got seen right away, and they did a vaginal ultrasound, and she took a minute before turning on the camera for us to see, just like looking around and stuff. And then first she asked me, she said, are your periods regular? And I'm like, yeah. And she said, when did you say your last period was? And I told her, and she's like, okay. And so I kind of had a feeling that there was something definitely wrong. And then she said, I'm trying to like not cry, and I'm trying to think about everything that happened. Then she said, okay, she's like, well, the baby's only measuring at about 5 weeks. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, it could be that the baby is just a little smaller and hasn't developed all the way yet, or it could be that you're in early miscarriage. And I'm like, nice. The sac was tiny. She finally showed me the ultrasound picture, and it looked nothing like what Shiloh's looked like. There was nothing inside the sac that I could see, and it was tiny. So that kind of gave me my answer, but I was being hopeful. And then I went in to see one of the doctors, and she came in and she pretty much told me what I already knew. That if it was a miscarriage, there was nothing that we could do to stop it, and that there was nothing that I could have done to make myself have a miscarriage or harm the baby or anything like that. But that it could also be hormonal bleeding, and that the baby was just smaller than we thought, and I conceived later than I had thought. So I came home thinking about it, and I'm like, you know, maybe it didn't happen when I thought it happened, and maybe I did conceive later. Like, so I started to be hopeful because the bleeding started to calm down a little. It wasn't heavy it wasn't heavy to begin with, but it wasn't getting heavier. So I was like, okay, that's fine. And there was no cramping involved. Well, then we went to bed because it was pretty late that night. We went to bed, and then during the night I started cramping, and it wasn't horrible. Like, it was like a mild cramping, but I kind of had that feeling like it's happening, like I'm about to lose my baby. Keep in mind, I was pretty stable and I was pretty put together this entire time. Like, I did not cry at the doctor's office. I did not cry when I was calling Oliver. I didn't cry like at all that day. And so overnight I had what I was telling you guys, the cramping, and then I could feel the bleeding just get heavier and heavier. And I kept telling myself, just go to sleep. It's a bad dream. You're gonna wake up and you're gonna stop bleeding and everything's gonna be fine. So I ended up dozing off and falling asleep. And then in the morning, I woke up. I couldn't even wake myself up. Like, I was so tired. But Shiloh was crying in her room. And I remember I got up and I knew. In that moment, I knew. So I felt like shit. Literally what I felt like, shit. And I knew I needed to get up and get my daughter because she was crying in her room. I'm about to cry. Sorry guys. Anyways, like I was saying, I knew I needed to get up and get my daughter and take care of her because there was nobody else at home with me. My husband had already left to work. So I got up and I got her and I gave her some Cheerios and some milk for her to eat and stay together. And when I gave her her stuff, I turned around so I wasn't facing her, and I lost my shit, guys. I lost it. I completely just lost it. I was screaming, crying my eyes out. There was nobody with me. I didn't have anybody in my family know what was going on. Not my mom, not my mother-in-law, not anybody, not my sisters. No one knew. Except my cousins, and I hadn't talked to them at that moment, but I wanted my mom and I wanted my sisters here. So I couldn't bear to call my mom and tell her what was going on, because that's just not something that you want to tell your parents, you know, that you're losing one of their grandchildren. So I called my sister. I'm gonna cry again. So I called my sister and I told her, I need you to come right now. And she said, what's going on? Why are you crying? Like, she's panicked, you know, because she knows something really bad happened. And she's like, Anna, what's wrong? And I can't even get a hold of my breath. I wish I could explain to you guys the way I felt that moment better, because it was unbearable. So I'm trying to get my breath together to be able to even tell her what's going on, because keep in mind, guys, they don't know I'm pregnant. And finally I'm able to tell her what's going on, and she's like, calm down, I'm coming, like, I'm coming. And after I finally said the words and everything was like said to her, I kind of felt a little relieved. Like, I was like, okay, I said it. I said. And I told her, no, it's fine, like, don't worry, like, I just needed to get it out. I needed to tell somebody, like, I'm fine now, like, I'll be fine. And she's like, no, you're not supposed to be alone. She's like, have you called mommy? And I'm like, no, I can't tell her, like, I can't bear to tell her. And so she's like, well, I'm still coming. I'm like, no, you have to go to work, it's fine. And she's like, no, I'm still coming. And I'm like, I just really needed someone here because I don't feel like I can take care of Shiloh. So she's like, call mommy, let her know. And like I said, guys, I could not call her. I could not tell her. I don't know why. I just couldn't. So I texted Jackie, my other sister, one of my younger sisters, the one that's after me, and I told her in a text what was going on. I said, I was pregnant and I'm having a miscarriage. I need y'all to come now. Monica got here, and a little bit after, my mom showed up and my sisters. And when Monica got here, I was a little more, I had my stuff together a little more. Like, I wasn't crying or anything. Like, I had cried a good bit already. And then my mom got here. I don't know why it makes me more emotional when I talk about my mom. My mom got here and she looked at me and she had tears filling her eyes. And I could feel them filling mine. And I just cried. And I said, I'm losing my baby. And I told her I'm losing my baby. And she cried and she held me and she said, no more crying. She said, things happen for a reason and God has a plan for everybody. And that was our plan in our family, and that was your plan, and that was your baby's plan. She said, you know, maybe the baby wasn't okay. They just happened. She's like, but you're okay. You have a beautiful blessing, your daughter. I'm like, I know, but it's just, it's crazy because you don't think it's gonna happen to you, honestly. Like, when you've had such a great pregnancy and your baby so healthy, you could have never expected it. So they were with me pretty much the entire time, and then that was at like 8 in the morning, 7 in the morning, and then Ellie and Yasmin showed up after, I guess because I didn't text Ellie back, I think, or maybe I did tell her, I can't remember. But they showed up too, and then by like 10 a.m. I miscarried. And I know I miscarried because my bleeding got really, really heavy, and I was cramping really, really bad. And I, you know, there was a lot of clots and stuff. So I knew I had miscarried at that moment. I did not call my mother-in-law either. That was another person that I couldn't tell. Like, myself, I could not tell them. And on top of that, I didn't want to talk about it anymore. I kind of just wanted to cry and that be it. Like, I didn't want to tell anybody. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to, I didn't want to have to repeat what was going on. Sorry guys, I had to change the battery. It was dying. Like I was saying, I didn't want to have to repeat what was going on. So I called my husband and I told him, I said, you need to tell your mom because I can't tell her. And he was like, why not? Just call her, you know. I'm sure she wants you to tell her. And I'm like, Oliver, I cannot tell her. I'm like, I'm telling you, I cannot tell her. You need to call her. So he waited to call her until after work. And he called her, I think she called him maybe, because usually she calls him in the afternoon. So I think she called him just to see how we were. And Oliver broke the news to her. And then she called me, but I think somebody was over or something and I couldn't answer, so I didn't answer. Oh no, I was putting Charlotte to sleep because this was like really, really late at night. It was like 9 p.m. by that time. Monica and her husband, Monica and her fiance came over, my sister, and they just came to check on me and stuff and, you know, say their condolences and whatnot and spend a little time with us just to make sure we didn't need anything or anything like that. We had been outside in the patio for a while with the dogs, and then finally we came in, and I was rocking Shiloh to sleep, and I think that's when she called, so I couldn't answer, and I texted her and I said, I'll call you in a moment. And then I came out and I spoke to her on the phone, and I told her, you know, from my own words what had happened and what the doctors had said and everything like that. And she was crying, and she pretty much said the same thing, you know, that my mom said. You've already cried about it, don't cry about it anymore. She's like, things happen for a reason, and you guys are healthy and young, and you guys can try again. And it's like, when people say that, like, it makes you mad. I want to say, like, I don't know about y'all, it makes me mad, because not because they said that or because they're like not sensible about it, but because you lost your child, you know? So there's really nothing anybody can say that's gonna make you feel better. Anything, like, there's nothing. So finally, I think a couple days after, I think it was like the week after, I spoke to my husband about it, and I'm like, you know, I don't want to keep this to ourselves. I want to share our baby story. And I was like, I want to announce it, and I wanted people to know that there was a baby, that we had another baby. Just because it's not with us anymore doesn't mean that we didn't have a baby. And so he agreed, and we announced that we had had a miscarriage, and I got a lot of support from a lot of people. My cousins reached out. One of my cousins in specific, she texted me and she said, you know, there's absolutely nothing I can say, and it breaks my heart. She's like, I just wish I could take that pain from you. And as much as I didn't want to feel that pain, I wouldn't have ever wanted her to feel that. But just what she said was just perfect. And she asked me, you know, how are you doing? You know, how are you feeling? And I told her, just when I feel like I'm okay, I lose it. And it was honestly like that. Like, dealing the couple of days after the miscarriage was like, okay, I'm fine, you know, God is right, you know, there's no reason to question God's plans. And I still don't. I still, you know, believe that everything does happen for a reason, and that was just what happened to us. So just when you feel like you're okay, there's just something that triggered and you lose it, honestly. It's just a feeling that you can't get rid of. So now we are here almost a month after, pretty much, I think a month after everything. Or almost a month after everything, and it does get easier. I can't say that it doesn't, but you still think about that baby, you know, and you're always going to think about it, and you're going to think the what ifs. Even though I read a post somewhere, guys, that we shouldn't think that way. We should think that there is no what ifs. Like, that's just what God wanted. But anyways, I just wanted to come on here and share my story and share how I felt and how our family dealt with it and everything like that. Like I said, I had a ton of great support from my family, all of my family, my aunts, my cousins, everybody. Also, one other aunt gave me a really great piece of advice that she kind of found that helped her when she had her miscarriage not too long ago. She said, put a sex to that baby and a name, because that baby is your child, and it has just that right as any other child. I have not put a gender to my baby or a name, but I would love to do that, actually. I think that's a great thing to do. It's something me and my husband have been discussing, but that's all I really wanted to share with you guys. I hope that this gives you a little bit of comfort if you're going through it and watching videos on YouTube. I know I watched several miscarriage videos after mine happened. If you ever need me, I'm here for you guys. If you ever need someone to talk to, someone to cry with, I'm here for you guys. Just DM me on Instagram or anywhere. If you have my personal phone number, or just message me. And just know that I'm 1 in 4. I'm 1 in 4 women who have had a miscarriage in their life, and I hope and pray that that was my one and only. My mom went through 4 miscarriages, I think, in her life. 3 or 4, I can't remember, but a few. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, even though it's a little sad. It's still a story time, and I wanted to share my story. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. I promise you guys I'll have some more exciting, more like alegre content up for you guys in the next videos. But I'm glad to be back. That's one of the reasons that I was pretty much gone for a while. I'm glad to be back, and I will see you guys in the next video.